What do you guys think? Flat top or round top? I think I look a bit more like Walter White with this one. What do you think? Let's go with this one. Book 5. The Predator. The last of the first cycle. Because as I'm doing this, I'm going to be doing it in cycles. 5 books at a time. And after this video, the next video to go up will be a review of the first cycle, so books 1 to 5. But let's talk specifically about this thing here. Firstly, it's the lobster cover. I don't actually have one of the gorilla covers. But, I don't know, I've always grown up with the lobster cover, so I'm biased in favour of it. But this book is not about the cover. I'm going to lay this out straight to you. This is a 10 out of 10. So let's get that rating out of the way first and get into the reasons why I'm giving this book a solid, no questions, 10 out of 10. This book is fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. The amount of iconic scenes in this book alone, in the 150 pages, I think it's 150 pages. I could be wrong. No, it is 150. 150 pages of magic. Let's just go through it bit by bit. The first scene with Marco finding the thieves in the alleyway. Let's go back to the other books with the opening scenes and they're doing some subplot intro bit. They've all been ridiculous in one or two ways. If you want to know why, go watch those reviews. But this one, it's actually not ridiculous. Marco sees an old man getting mugged, and so he morphs and takes care of the problem. But not only that, but the old man in the end takes up the gun and starts shooting at Marco. For the first time, one of these introductory bits has actually had a lesson in it. You know, something valuable. You save the old man, and then suddenly, before you know it, you're being attacked by the very person you were trying to save. There's a message in there. And a very strong one. I don't think I'm going to patronise you all by explaining the message to you. But it is beautifully written. Marco doesn't do anything particularly stupid here, which is not what happened in the other books. Because Marco is smart. And he knows... Basically, he is the brains of the group, let's be honest. He's the least likely to do something stupid. I'm sure he will, eventually, at some point. But that opening scene was the first one where I thought that really actually adds to this person's character. And it really does. I've explained before that, even though we haven't had Marco narrate yet, he is the strongest character of the lot up to that point. And this book only pushes him even further ahead of the other characters. I'm going to be doing my best character, worst character bit later on for this cycle. In the cycle video, and we already know what my answer is going to be for this particular cycle. Marco's character is enthralling, and I think that's part of the reason why this book is so good, because we're able to play now with this character that we've already built to such a degree. Let's move on from that first scene. So what happens next? They take Axe to the mall. Now we've just introduced Axe, and he's notorious for his wacky scenes, and this is the first time we see it. Also, note the first time he has talks about a cinnamon bun. Yep, number 1, cinnamon bun. We've arrived at the bun era. Great stuff. But not only do we get the first mention of a cinnamon bun, but we have his first taste. He has coffee, which, you know, I'm a fan as well. And we have this scene where he gets lost in the mall and causes a ruckus. Axe, you know, he's the smart... He's supposed to be a smart one, but he's not streetwise. And that becomes very obvious as this scene progresses, because he demorphs in the middle of the mall. Marco is the more streetwise one. Axe has book smarts. He doesn't have street smarts. I think you all know what I mean by that. So that's going to be very interesting. It's also interesting to see how Axe is mingling with the other group, with the rest of the group, because he butts heads with Marco a little bit, which is also a positive for Marco in terms of his character development. We see that he doesn't really want to take bullshit, and instead of Axe just slotting in nicely into this team in this children's book or young adults book, no, it doesn't go like that. Axe he's a bit off, he's a bit awkward amongst the others, and they will still try to figure him out. We'll see that as the next few books come along. So the Animorphs run out of this mall, and thank God it isn't 2020, because they would have been spotted by security cameras and it would be over. But remember, we're back in the 90s now, so we're safe. And they run into a grocery store and morph lobster, and then we get the lobster scene in the kitchen, where they almost get bored alive, and Marco just says it was all a wacky dream that you shouldn't tell anyone to this woman. And it's another one of those great scenes that people just, as far as I know, people just remember. And it was that's one of the first infamous scenes, apart from Axe obviously in the mall, which became a running gag, but started here. We were in the mall because Axe needed a bunch of equipment for a Z-Space transmitter. Again, this is the first time we're hearing of Z-Space. This book is just throwing stuff at us already. It's even throwing lore at us now. But Axe is missing a vital ingredient to his little transmitter. A Z-Space transponder, I think he calls it. So they wonder, where the ruddy heck are we going to get one of these things from? And they decide, well, we know of a Yeerk who is able to contact Yeerk ships. Because what they want to do is bring down a Yeerk ship so Axe can take that up into space, because there are no flaws to that plan whatsoever. Regardless, they go to Chapman's house and morph Ant. Yeah, that's right, they morph these tiny, minuscule little bugs to get into the wall. Again, let's just go over the finer details of the flaw in these plans, because young adult series. They morph Ant, and the scene is just set so perfectly. I don't know what it is about the introduction to this chapter where everybody's just nerves, and there's something about that particular bit which was brilliant, really well written. And then they morph Ant, and again it's one of those famous scenes where they go in, they grab this transponder, and then they get ripped apart by the enemy ants. But it's possibly the best part of the book. It's so well written, it's so tense and dramatic, it really hits home. And we're only like halfway through the book at this point. There's just so much thrown in here, but it's not like bang, 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 bang. It's not just thrown in at you. It feels right. It really does. And then we come out of this ant thing, Marco, in line with his character, says, right, that's it. We do this mission, and then I'm out. Which seems in character for him at this point, because he's always been he's always been the most off about it, this whole Animorphs thing, even though he came up with the name. And after that traumatic event, and after the dolphin thing, it seems natural that he would say, right, that's it, I've had enough. And props to Jake in this book. I've not mentioned Jake so far, but I need to mention Jake is... He gets his own character development here, and it's really subtle. It doesn't stand out, but his character development in this book, props to him in this book, because he acts right in these situations. He doesn't confront Marco. He says, I know this is your decision. I'm not going to get angry. I can't change, this is your decision. And props to Jake for that, because we've seen before that, Jake and Marco will bounce against each other and, a bit of banter. But Jake knows when to just take a step back and look at it through a different lens. And that's real props to Jake there. And later on as well. It's surprising how well Jake is developed here. This is probably the best Jake's been developed throughout this first cycle. In these subtle moments in The Predator, which just adds to this experience of The Predator. It's just a fantastic book. I can't praise it enough. And then we get the Jessica scene. And no, I'm not going to criticise the Jessica scene. In fact, quite the opposite. This scene was fantastic. It may seem like it's just thrown in there. At first, it sort of felt like that. We're going from this ant scene. Next up, we're going to bring in the Yerk ship down. And then in the middle, we just get this scene in a cafeteria where a girl gets beat up. Well, not so much beat up by Rachel. And they go to the vice principal's office. With that overview, it seems like, why would they put that in there? It is done so well. Really well. Rachel and Marco are perfectly in character. And they play off each other here to just the best standard. And there's just something about this almost shoehorned in cafeteria scene which just completes this book. It puts the focus of two of the characters so far into full perspective and puts them into a scenario and just lets them play it out. Fantastic. Brilliant writing. Absolutely brilliant. And it's one of those scenes that I think in any other book would stand out. This Jessica scene, it's not one that I remembered, because people don't tend to talk about this scene, but it is that good. It's just surrounded by the ants, axing them all, going to the Yerk mothership for the first time. It's just overshadowed by these other huge events, and it's rather unfortunate for the Jessica scene, but it is brilliant. Brilliant scene. Marco and Rachel interaction there, spot on. And it goes to it's almost a foreshadowing for how these characters will sort of interplay in the future. It's just a small version of what's to come down the line. So we come to the climax now. All along, Marco has been pining over his mother. Sometimes it seems he's doing a bit of a Tobias where he's sort of lingering on it, and it comes across as a bit, what's the word? I can't think of the right word for it, I'm sorry. Marco is just constantly... I don't like using the word moaning because it's not right, but moaning about his mother being dead. That sounds horrible, but there's a word that I'm missing there. Sorry. But we've established for a while now that Marco's mother drowned. And it was done so much that it almost seemed obvious that at some point something was going to happen. And it happens quite early on. It happens in this book. So they call down a bug fighter. And unbeknownst to the Animorphs, the Yerks anticipate that this sort of thing would happen. For the first time, I think, and possibly the last time, the Yerks show a sign of competence. Actual military thinking. You're constantly changing your frequencies just in case somebody tries to intercept something or trick you. So for the first time, and possibly the last time, the Yerks show signs of military competence, and Axe doesn't think about this. Understandable that Jake wouldn't, because he doesn't operate in the military, and he's new to this thing. So a bit silly on Axe's part, but they're kids, you can't blame them too much for not knowing specifically how communication frequencies work for a Yerk force. It's understandable. So this bug fighter comes down, and this poor sap Hawkbajir is just... he pretty much knows. We established that he's just there as a sacrifice, basically. So this poor sod... Thankfully they don't kill him. Because, the Yerks do show restraint. At least here. And they just knock him about a bit. But he gets beaten up, and then suddenly all these other Hawkbajir come across, and there's Vista 3 there as well, and he says, "Ah ha ha ha! I have defeated you." And they were like, "No, we can't escape. It's it's too much effort to escape. We'd just die. Better to have hope than to go down fighting," which is a strange way to look at it, but what a sensible way. It's one of those things where you could go down fighting, or you could just accept whatever torture's coming to you and potentially be used against your allies. It's a strange one. it's not an easy decision. But Jake, he basically rallies. He tells the others, we're gonna stay the course. Marco helps out as well. But they go up to the mothership for the first time. Animorphs go into space. And what's that line that Cassie... There's a line in here that I just think is bizarre. Cassie says, "I've never been in space before." What? You've never been into space before, Cassie? Well, blow my fucking mind. What a stupid line. Of course you've never been into bloody space before. Cassie at this point is just go back to school. They end up on the mothership, and then we get that another famous and like Animorphs moment. It is revealed that Visser 1 has the host body of Marco's mother, and it does hit quite hard, this scene. It's done pretty well. I wouldn't say it's done brilliantly. It's done to a good standard. But Marco, sort of collapses back in his gorilla morph, and the best part of all this is Jake. Yeah, the best part of this whole scene is not the reveal. It's not Marco's reaction to his mother or the way his mother just talks to Visser 3 and whatever. It's Jake. It's Jake in the background saying to Marco, basically, that's not your mother. Just, do your job. Do what you need to do. Worry about this later. You need to keep yourself straight for now. You need to do that. That is brilliant by Jake. Absolutely brilliant. And he doesn't announce it to anyone else. He speaks specifically to Marco, just saying, hold it steady. Do not falter here. Hold it steady. Worry about this later. Brilliant. Absolutely fantastic. And my respect for Jake just went up there. Jake doesn't get enough credit. You look at the polls for who's the favourite character. Jake's always at the bottom with the fewest votes. In fact, he hardly ever gets any. I think he's underrated. It's moments like this where you think he is holding these people together. He is doing his job as a leader to some degree. Sometimes. This moment where he's basically holding Marco back and just saying, hold it. Do not do anything. He instantly recognises that. He speaks privately to Marco. He doesn't say anything stupid. He says exactly what he needs to say. Brilliant from Jake. Absolutely fantastic. Kudos. And this is where I'm going to give Jake his score. I'm going to give him 7 out of 10 for leadership on this one. Because there wasn't much planning involved. And he does have his good moments. He doesn't have any outstanding moments, but nor does he have any bad moments. So I'm going to give him just a solid 7 out of 10. But these moments with Marco, previously when he said he was going to give up, and now were his best moments. It would have been a 6 otherwise. I'm tempted to make it an 8 just for these moments, but I'm going to give it a 7. For these moments alone, Jake, spot on. Don't know what the hell that was. And now we come to the climax of the book. So Marco has found out that it's his mother. He wants Jake to not mention it to anybody else. I can't remember when actually they all learn that it's his mum, but that's for another book. So they're in this cell and they're trying to think of ways to get out, and they eventually come to the conclusion of we should go as ants. And then Tobias raises the point of, well, I can't do that. Bye then. Which is... You know the stakes are high when Tobias just says, well, you lot go on, I'll just die, I suppose. They're at the point where they're thinking, we're screwed, essentially. There's not much they can do. And then, surprise, surprise, the Vissers are playing politics. Which is bizarre, but, in the dog-eat-dog world of military hierarchy, it's not too surprising. Especially when Visser 3 is as incompetent as he is. Visser 1 has already said that Visser 3 has screwed up the invasion. She's already said that. We're book 5 and she's already recognised, yeah, you're a fuck up. You know, I don't know why they put you in charge of this. And kudos, you know, full respect to Visa One. She sees that bullshit. And what I think is going on here is she's trying to sabotage Visa 3 in order to get him off the job. Because she knows he's going to fuck this up even more. You know, might as well find some way to get rid of him. So she sabotages things, you know, knocks out his guards, and her Hork-Bajir give the Animorphs directions to leave to an escape pod, which somehow they'll know how to work. But they go off, take out a few guards along the way. I just want to pull back a second there. There's a part here, a rather unusual part. The lead Hork-Bajir from Visa One's little group. This one sounded like he'd been educated at Harvard. Where else have we known Hork-Bajir that speak very well? They're very linguistically talented. Seers. Now, I don't think this is ever brought up again. This individual. But every time we've seen a Hork-Bajir, that they speak in broken English, and you know they'll throw in their own what's the galactic language? I don't know. I forgot. Take off my #1 Animorphs fan crown. But they're speaking this broken English. It's not very good, and then they get this single Hork-Bajir who's speaking. Is this a seer? Is that a question that's ever been asked? Is this single Hork-Bajir? Because even when they're yerked, they don't speak very well. But this one is. Who knows? Maybe it's just, you know, your average Hork-Bajir who's been very well trained. You know, he might be a sub-Visa who has been specifically trained to be like an ambassador somewhere within the Yerk Empire, who has to go around, you know, spreading messages. Maybe that's it. Maybe, you know, jumping to the conclusion that this is a seer is probably a bit far. But I wouldn't be past the idea of Hork-Bajir being trained specifically for linguistic skills. Just a little aside there. So the Animorphs go off and they find their escape pod and they get away. And then we finish with this touching scene of Marco with his father on the Sunday 2 years after the supposed death of his mother. And we get this little scene where his dad says, "I'm going to go back for my old job again." It's quite a touching little scene. And of course we'll come back to more about Marco's family later on as the series progresses. But that brings our first cycle to a close. Fantastic book. I don't think I need to say much more, but this book is a 10 out of 10. The amount of brilliant scenes in this, just the overload of amazing stuff in this book. You've got the ants, you've got the Jessica scene, you've got the first time we go on the pool ship, we've got cinnamon buns for the first time, Axe going mad in the mall, the lobster bit, you name it, this book's got it, and that is why it's a solid 10 out of 10. Brilliant book, absolutely fantastic, and what a way to end this first cycle. The next video that I will do will be going over books 1 to 5 as a group, and then we'll be moving on after that to book 6. Yep, that's right, we're going to start the next cycle. The cycle always starts with a Jake book, and that will be The Capture. So thank you very much for watching. I shall see you all soon. Ta-ra!